My view of space is right here, right now with you guys. We're in space. We are on a planet floating around like a microscopic speck in the middle of nowhere. So the way the QU4TRO came together, it's a pretty unique story in itself. The project begins by coming in from different directions, everybody coming in from slightly different directions. So while I already had a professional relationship established with John Danks, George Newton and I had also been conversing somewhat on and off as we ran into each other for about a year. You know, we'd run into each other throughout the scene and we're kind of threatening to play together. In the meantime, I had been teaching graphic design and digital graphics at Cazenovia College. And one of my students, I discovered years after she graduated, we maintained a friendship. She played cello. While she was less than half our age, long story short, she joined the band. I brought the four of us together, and it was an unlikely situation, which was attractive to me. I didn't want to be in the same old band that everybody else had. I wanted to do something very different. And so the band is comprised of a cello, classical, representing the pit. We have the pedal steel, which, as you know, can either be a great country and western instrument, but it's also a very Pink Floyd trippy instrument. And I was really interested in that from George Newton. And then, of course, we had John Danks on the jazz double bass. And that worked out very well with the way I like to write my music. It supports my music in a way that I felt was unique. Another thing that I consider a very relevant factor in the QU4TRO as part of the success we're having is that these instruments are all unfretted. We have, including voices, we have four instruments. One of them is fretted plus three voices. So that's six instruments that are not fretted. So I was really interested in the way that sonic hangs without fretted or keyed notes. So that's kind of cool in that we're all little screwed up chamber orchestra in that way. We're a string section. This kind of instrumentation, a lot of times these instruments are most often featured as section instruments. They're blended into a mix as a part of other instruments, especially strings, with violas and violins and so on. And the pedal steel has a way of being a background. And I wanted to approach these instruments the same way that Miles Davis approached his gang, and that they were all featured lead instruments that come out into the front. And while we're not a jazz band, we have that jazz band ethic in that way. So that to me is the relevance of the QU4TRO. And most importantly, so far to this date, we're the only band I can find on the planet that does have this instrumentation. So we've issued a couple of records already, and we're on standby to record another one. So the way the Astronaut song and video came out is, well, my idea for Astronaut to begin with is that we are all astronauts. We're all just traveling through time and space, and we like to think of the Earth as a place, and we almost look at the sky almost like we're looking out of a window and it's out there, and that's actually incorrect because we are just a speck as part of all of that. Therefore, we are astronauts. And when I got into the making of the video, a lot of the first obvious suggestions for the visual narrative would be to animate pictures of space and incorporate Jupiter and stars and spaceships and stuff like that. And I didn't want any part of that, mainly because that's already done. And that's actually not my view of space. My view of space is right here, right now with you guys. We're in space. We are on a planet floating around like a microscopic speck in the middle of nowhere. So this is it. And that's how I wanted the visual to be in the Astronaut video that shows that this is our perch in space. And then we also supported that very subtly with the use of cameras, whereas we had one camera pretty stable on the ground or could be walking around. But at the point of the song where it kind of goes from a dark place lyrically or thematically to an ascension, to a light, a feeling of light and higher love. And I wanted to represent that narratively by taking flight as the soul sees it, not as the astronaut sees it. So we incorporated the drone at the moment where the song lyrically, the soul takes flight. And I thought we did a great job with that, thanks to Cody and the crew. I felt that that was a very successful result for what that song is trying to convey.